Continuing our story after the monumental incident, we are actually picking up in the training arena of Astera. This is where Grimlock is training both Astrid and Hiccup in a different manner. You see, Grimlock has figured out in the span of, let's say, a week, that Astrid is more adept at combat than Hiccup is, or at least close quarters combat, which most hunters actually excel at. However, Hiccup doesn't. Astrid actually excels at it, and he even gives her own choice of a weapon, and she actually excels with the switch axe. Now with Hiccup, it's a little bit different. Grimlock focuses more on his intelligence rather than pretty much close quarters combat. Hiccup actually figured out how to weaponize the black slime of a Mortumento for his own being, and actually shows his report to Grimlock. However, while Grimlock is interested in that and does congratulate Hiccup on his efforts, Grimlock thinks he has a solution to Hiccup's problem. And this is where he presents him with a bow. Now you might say, legendary, why a bow? Because it's more, I would say it's more long range and it requires intelligence. And I think Grimlock would see that and exploit that with Hiccup training and practicing his aim. Come to find out, Hiccup's actually a pretty good shot with it. Grimlock then goes over Hiccup's notes, and he's actually surprised. He figured out not only how to compact the slime of the Morumento into cartridges, but also to use them as highly destructive weapons. Being thrown at the right angle can easily one-shot or even incapacitate a monster for a short period of time. And while he's glorifying his new student's notes, the handler comes in and actually interrupts him, saying that his armor is ready and that he has a visitor. Grimlock brushes her off, saying that the visitor could come another time. He's reading notes right now. And while this is happening, the handler and him actually go a little bit of back and forth, with Grimlock kind of just brushing her off. And he says, tell the guest that he'll be there in a couple minutes. However, he hears a familiar voice telling him to turn around. Lo and behold, this is Elsa. And she seems to be very angry at the moment. Grimlock turns and is actually shocked that she's here, so far away from home. And Grimlock tells her, pretty much asks her, what are you doing here? Why are you here? I thought we talked about this. And this is when Astrid and Hiccup both stop what they're doing and kind of just enjoy the little rambling that goes on between the two, to which Grimlock tries to persuade them not to, but they continue anyway. And Elsa goes off. She actually tells Grimlock how long it's been. It's been around a couple months since they've seen each other, and Grimlock tells her that he's been dealing with that, pointing to a mountain that actually was shattered in his battle with a Shad Dalmador. And she actually sees a bunch of people working on getting the parts out, taking out the meat, everything. And Elsa actually feels kind of bad because this is what Grimlock does, and she apologizes. However, Grimlock does say that he apologizes for not being there all the time like he should. And this is when Elsa announces that she'll actually be here a lot more because the council decided to appoint her sister as the ruling queen instead of her. Astrid and Hiccup both look in shock as this was explained, and Grimlock actually gets a little bit irritated to the point where he does show a little bit of his Durem Dira side, but instead of being angry, he comforts her, showing that she's the only one that actually gets a soft side out of him. However, he tells her he has to go back to work and assigns Astrid to train her in combat. Make sure she knows the basics and let her choose her own weapon. And this is when he assigns Hiccup to come with him, as he has a special assignment for him and wants to fully test him. Hiccup is actually a little concerned and a little bit scared. And this is where Grimlock explains to him that they have an assignment. Essentially, they have to go after whatever is causing the Korra Highlands so much of a fuss. To which Hiccup actually says that he's not sure if he's ready for this, doubting himself. To which Grimlock slaps him, at least soft enough so he doesn't go flying, but it staggers him a lot, and tells him that he needs to have confidence in himself Otherwise, he can't truly be in a combat. And Hiccup looks puzzled at him. Grimlock actually believes him. Grimlock actually has faith in him, and he's never experienced this before. Always been called the town joke or the lesser haddock, but he feels like someone that actually has his back for once, and he actually thanks Grimlock for it. Grimlock says not to mention it, but Hiccup goes on, telling him what it means to actually feel like someone believes in him, that he actually feels like he has a friend. He corrects himself, saying that he knows they're not at the level, but maybe one day they can be. To which Grimlock does shut him down and tells him that they're at the meeting. This is where everyone goes to, both Hiccup and Grimlock are at the Great Gathering, or at least the Gathering Hub, where they meet the field team leader. Or at least this is Hiccup's first time meeting the field team leader, who calls Grimlock his most prized hunter as he greets him. And this is where, he pretty much thanks him for handling the Shad Dalmador situation and says that his armor is almost ready. It just needs the finishing touches. To which Grimlock says, great, he's been getting tired of wearing this Barioth armor and hopes that it's just as good as he predicted. And this is when he asks them, what's the mission? Field team leader actually goes on to state that the Coral Highlands have been experiencing some difficulties, especially with the recent abundance of Namiels in the New World, and says that right now they are having a hard time determining what that problem is. So he needs him to go and investigate it. Grimlock is a bit shocked by this. What could be disturbing the Namiels? What could be trying to take on the Namiels? He even says a regular Devil Joe wouldn't do such a thing. However, he may have just answered his own question. He heads back to the arena, but he does go up and snag his armor along the way, and he actually looks impressed as Elsa is donning dual blades and showing that she's very fluent with it. Better than he could have ever hoped for, even. However, both she and Astrid stop when they look at his new armor. It looks fascinating, glorious even. Wearing a Dalmador armor is just so fitting here. Now, the reason why I gave Grimlock this armor is just because it just screams power. It screams rage. It screams destruction. And what better person to wear that armor than Grimlock, right? But anyway, back to the story. Elsa actually admires the armor he's wearing, and it actually just makes her more flirtatious towards him because it screams power. And Grimlock flirts with her right back until Hiccup tells him, could you two get a room? We have a mission to do right now. To which both of them laugh, and Grimlock does bid her farewell for now, and that Astrid will show her around and help her get to know the place. Nodding towards Astrid, she then tells Hiccup to be careful, to which the two are now heading to the Coral Highlands. Now in the Coral Highlands, the two of them, well, I should say three because Faust is here as well. So the three of them both realize that the air is a bit more moist and humid than usual. To which Grimlock then tells Hiccup that he's going to deal with the first Namiel he sees, but he needs Hiccup to scout ahead and to be careful. Hiccup then agrees, but this is where things get a little difficult as a male Namiel steps into view. And it spots them immediately, becoming very aggressive. Hiccup then uses his ghillie mantle, custom-made ghillie mantle, I should say, and actually just hides and just pretty much just dips under the cover while Grimlock roars at it with his Duremdira, pretty much, with his Elder Dragon roar, if you will. And this is when the two engage in each other in a, I guess you could say, almost in like a turf war-like scuffle. Meanwhile, Hiccup is deep within the Coral Highlands, basically the areas where the Elder Dragons would be at this point. And he gets spooked when he sees a savage Devil Joe coming into view. And he hides in some undergrowth. However, unfortunately for him, this is where the Devil Joe wants him. And Hiccup realizes that he's next to a fresh clutch of Namiel eggs that have been laid in a puddle and covered with foliage. We then go right back to Grimlock fighting against the male Namiel, and he's actually just playing with it at this point. Dodging around, using his ice powers when he wants to, using the fire of Dalmador when he wants to, while the Namiel is trying to counter the best it can. It still can't keep up with a playing Grimlock. We then go back to Hiccup, who's basically fighting for his life at this point. The Devil Joe, or the Savage Devil Joe, is trying his hardest to hit Hiccup, and Hiccup is keeping it away from the eggs the best it can. He's trying everything, dodging, using his bow and arrow skills. He actually lands some decent blows on the Devil Joe, which enrage it further into using its dragon breath against him, and Hiccup is using to cover the environment the best he can. He feels cornered. He feels out of luck, out of chance here. However, this is where a surprise comes in, as a Plesioth carcass is dropped from the sky. They both look up to see a angry and pissed off but exhausted Namiel mother. It's the female, and she's returned to protect her nest from this savage Devil Joe. However, her exhaustion still proves to be her downfall, as Devil Joe is able to fling her off and then toss her away from him. However, she did do a lot of damage. This is when Devil Joe then runs at Hiccup full speed with his mouth open. Hiccup, thinking this is the best time to test his cartridges, he throws the Mortimental Slime cartridge right into Devil Joe's mouth, and it pops. This engulfs the Devil Joe's head, engulfs his mouth in this black goo, and then it hardens into spikes, impaling the Devil Joe through the throat and the brain. This is when the male Namiel returns to greet his mate and actually helps her up. And this is where they actually look to the Devil Joe carcass as Grimlock arrives. And he looks amazed, amused even that Hiccup did this. And he gives Hiccup a carving knife. Hiccup is a little unsure that Grimlock wants him to take this, but Grimlock tells him exactly why he wants him to take it. He did it. He beat it, and he beat it fair and square. Grimlock tells him that this is a moment only a very few can get. Not many hunters are like him, and not many hunters can kill a Devil Joe with simply intelligence. And this is a one-shot kill, a legendary kill at that. Hiccup takes the knife and goes to work. We then pick up back at the camp where everyone is shocked. Elsa looks in pure amazement at what she sees, and Astrid looks jealous almost. Jealous and envious that she wanted her to be that victor. And this is where we see Grimlock present Hiccup with a Savage Devil Joe armor, all tethered to Hiccup's specifics and with his own sword. This is where Grimlock gives a speech about how he is proud of Hiccup and where he's become, and that Hiccup is one of the first few people that he will call his equal, his friend. And he tells Astrid and Elsa, seeing their faces in the crowds, that their time is coming. We then fast forward to the old world desert temple, where two elder dragons lay defeated, scorched, burnt, broken armor, broken hide. Genbaron and Damaron both lay defeated at this temple, and it was none other than Grimlock's father, Daggeron, who maniacally smiles as he enters this ancient temple, telling them that they were never going to be the ones to stop him from achieving his true goal. He enters the temple and sees Fatalis statues everywhere, and elder dragons that dedicated themselves to the monster. He reads the walls as a prophecy. The one true Dragon King will emerge and use the power of the Hydra Fatalis to conquer it all. And Daggeron thinks that it's him, and he takes the statue himself and absorbs it into him, feeling the power of all three Fatalises. He then lets out a monstrous roar, and he feels it, the power, the minds of every elder dragon within him, including his own son. And he tells them all to rise, to destroy, to become stronger. Elder dragons ranging from Velkhana, Shantian, even black dragons like Elatrion. The dragons of the Kimura region evolve into something else, and they begin laying waste to whatever village they can find. Even more than one pair of elder dragons together begins to lay waste to whatever they've had, whatever village that's in front of them. Yes, there are hunters in certain villages, and certain villages make a stand, but it's not enough. These elder dragons are just too much. However, something happens in the New World, in the Astera region, and Grimlock begins to just feel himself rage as as he's at this present at these sorry as he's at this altar. He feels himself become more and more like his dragon self, and he doesn't know what to do about it but collapse to the ground in agony and pain as he feels his bones and his coloration underneath his armor begin to change as he screams in agony. Elsa runs to his aid, seeing that he's changing, he's transforming, and she pulls all of his armor off of him as his body begins to get covered in ice and looks more and more like a Duremdira, but he's trying to fight it. This is where a surprise comes in, and Nergigante swoops him up and flies off with him. This is where the first team leader panics and says he needs someone after that Nergigante immediately and find out what's going on with Grimlock. This is where Faust comes down and actually looks at Hiccup and roars at him, begging him to hurry up and let's go. And this is where Hiccup smiles, dons his Devil Joe armor, and says he's got it. He's going to get back Grimlock and find out what's going on. And that's where we're going to leave it off here. With Hiccup and Grimlock now not only becoming equals but friends here, this may change the story. What has Daggeron done to his own son? Be sure to find out, and be sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and share with your friends, and be sure to stick around to find out in part 3.